A report published last month in the journal Science Advances says the species extinction rate is the highest it has been since the dinosaurs disappeared 65 million years ago. But this time human beings, not asteroids, are the cause. We are now witnessing what scientists call the planet's sixth mass extinction event. Our next guest studies the habitat and health of non-game species in our state. Assistant Professor in the Department of Zoology and Physiology, Anna Chalfoun, is here to explore the topic. What is a mass extinction event?
So mass extinctions have generally been defined as periods in which at least 75% of species go extinct within a relatively rapid time frame. But interestingly, that rapid time frame is anywhere between 1 year and millions of years. If you've seen one of those geologic time scales that try to put things in perspective in terms of, maybe as a child in your classroom, you had that strip of paper that went all the way around the room, and really the time scale in which humans have been here is like 1 inch or something, So the rapidity of the species or the rate at which we're losing species now, I think is the primary concern.
Well, and another big concern is that for the first time, human beings are here witnessing it and participating in this mass extinction.
Absolutely. I think it's so interesting to consider the enormous capacity that humans have to alter landscapes and habitats, and the rapidity at which we can do that.
Even though we're realizing that this is going on now, it didn't just start a year ago or a couple years ago. It's been going on for quite a long time, would you say?
If you look at the trends of the rates of extinction, you can really see an increase, again, when humans really started. If we can think about the industrial age, for example, you just see that rate, really shoot up. But humans have been here for a long time, but we do see these extinctions that have occurred commensurate when humans kind of came on the scene.
When we call this the sixth mass extinction, that's assuming there were 5 before this, but
correct.
And we're getting the information about this based on the geological record.
Yes, correct. And so if anything, it's a little bit conservative, right? Because the fossil record is incomplete. If you think about the challenges associated with that, and there are only certain types of species like vertebrates who have bones, or turtles that have hard carapaces that can be preserved in the fossil record. So if anything, scientists agree that it's probably an underestimate of the numbers of species that we've lost. And the other crazy thing is that so many species remain undescribed. I mean, really, the estimates of how many species there are on Earth, there's just this huge variation.
When you worry about the worst case scenario, and at least one author is predicting that human beings are not going to survive past 2100. As a scientist, what's a realistic way to look at this, or what do we know, or what maybe don't we know?
Yeah, I think so much is going to depend on what happens here on out. I mean, these things are extremely complex, and a lot of things can interact with each other. I don't really know that we can set a time frame for, what might happen to humans or things like that. But certainly the fact that so many scientists and studies have independently come to this conclusion based on these really elegant analyses and thorough analyses that we are losing species at such an incredible rate relative to the background rates that have been going on, for the last 4.5 billion years, it's pretty concerning.
So some extinction is normal?
Yes, so some extinction is normal. Scientists in some of the current studies used a very conservative estimate of background rates of extinction on the order of 2 species per million per year. And now we're seeing rates that are closer to 2 times to 100 times those rates that we've observed throughout geologic time.
In your work, can you describe a project that you've either worked on or are currently working on that takes a look at habitat change or destruction?
Absolutely. So my lab does a lot of research in sagebrush habitats, and in particular evaluating the relationship between species and land uses such as energy development. And I know everyone's heard a lot about the sage grouse and other high-profile species like mule deer that depend on sagebrush habitats, but there are also a lot of non-game species. For example, 3 species of songbirds that migrate up to Wyoming sagebrush habitats just to breed. Every year they come back to the same sites, from thousands of miles away. And so we've been working with our USGS and Wyoming Game and Fish collaborators to conduct research that tries to better understand what are the responses of these species. And these species, I should point out, have been declining throughout their entire range, or at least in parts of their range. Sagebrush habitats used to cover from southwestern US all the way up to southern Canada. And now 50% of that is entirely converted. And of remaining sagebrush habitats, approximately only 1% of that is what we could think about as kind of a pristine state. So it's not heavily fragmented, it's not heavily grazed, things like that. So we're really trying to understand why these populations are declining, how are they responding to things like energy development, and how can, what might we recommend to slow those population declines? Because really, if we can think about population declines as a precursor to local extinction or complete extinction.
But then the population declines and extinction are going to affect other parts of the ecosystem.
Absolutely. So we can think of everything as being connected. And especially some species might be very strong interactors, such that if we lose them, kind of like if you picture rivets in an airplane, we can pop out rivets and it might be okay for a while, but then you pop out that one critical rivet and there could be these cascading effects. We rely on species diversity to pollinate crops, to purify soil and water, to reduce erosion. All these ecosystem services, we refer to them as.
So Wyoming would look a lot different with less sagebrush habitat.
Absolutely, and sagebrush is a sensitive system because it's very arid to begin with. So, we're concerned as well about even subtle additional changes climatically to sagebrush habitats. And again, it's an important resource for a lot of species that we care about, like mule deer, like pronghorn, like sage grouse.
And I want to thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Anna is an assistant unit leader with the U.S. Geological Survey, Wyoming Cooperative Fish and Wildlife Research Unit.